All right, number 6, we're going to use the quadratic formula to find the exact solutions of the following equation. All right, so we have x squared minus 7x equals 30. Okay, so in order to use the quadratic formula, we have to first have this quadratic equation set equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 30 and move it over. I'm going to start with x squared minus 7x minus 30 equals 0. All right, then we can identify a, b, and c. And then just remind us of the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So I'll at least plug it all in once so you can see everything, and then from here on out I'll kind of simplify. So negative b, I'm going to put negative, and then b is already a negative 7. So it's going to end up being a positive 7, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4. A, leading coefficient is a 1, times c, which is a negative 30. All of this divided by 2 times a, and a is 1. Okay, so this is the setup for quadratic formula. So I'm going to start simplifying. This is going to be a positive 7 plus or minus square root. Negative 7 squared is 49 minus 4 times 1, which is 4. And so a negative 4 times a negative 30 is going to be a positive 120. So plus 120, all divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. So continuing, we have 7 plus or minus square root. This is going to be 169 over 2. And then I'm going to wrap around, come up here, and then square root of 169, we have 7 plus or minus square root of 169 is 13 over 2. All right, so we're going to get two answers. 7 plus 13 is 20. And then 7 minus 13. 7 minus 13 is going to give us a negative 6 over 2. So when you reduce these, we get 10 and we get negative 3. So these will be our two answers, 10 and negative 3. All right, this one just wants us to solve it, so we can do any method. We can do quadratic formula, factoring, or completing the square. So let's look and see which one will be the best. So first, again, I'm going to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract that 16z and move it over. So I have 4z squared, and then I'm going to subtract minus 16z to move it over. And then plus 13 equals 0. So I can't divide out 4. Well, I could. I'm going to do it with completing the square, just to practice that a little bit. So to complete the square, we're going to move the 13 over first. So I'm going to subtract 13. It's going to give me 4z squared minus 16z plus a blank space equals, it'll be a negative 13 when I move that guy over. All right, so to complete the square, you have to have a leading coefficient of a 1. So I'm going to divide 4 out of both these terms, or factor out of 4. So this is going to give me a 4 here. And when I divide by 4, this just remains z squared. This divided by 4 is a negative 4z, blank space over here, and then over here is still going to be negative 13. It's going to be fine. All right, so now that I have my leading term as a 1, we're going to take half of the middle term and square it. So negative 4, we're going to divide it by 2 and square it. That's to complete the square part. Negative 4 divided by 2 is going to give us a negative 2 squared. Negative 2 squared gives us a positive 4. These are the two numbers I'm going to use. On this side, with the square, I'm going to leave it as negative 2 squared. On the right side, I'm going to write it as plus 4. It's the same thing. I just added 4 to both sides. Well, actually, let me stop. I jumped the gun. I can't add 4 because this is in parentheses and it's being affected by this 4. So what's actually happening, this is 4. Okay, this is 4. But when you distribute, what I'm actually adding is 4 times 4, which is 16. So on this side, I need to do plus 16. So now I'm going to factor this side. So I'm going to leave this 4 here. And then the shortcut is take the 2 squared terms, which is z and the minus 2. Put those in parentheses, and the square goes on the outside. On this side, we have negative 13 plus 16, which just gives us 3. And then from here, we're going to solve. Divide by 4 on both sides. So this gives us z minus 2 quantity squared equals 3 over 4. And then we're going to take the square root of both sides. When you take the square root of a number, you're going to have to add that plus or minus. Square over here is just going to cancel out the square. So it's going to leave us with z minus 2. And then over here we have plus or minus. So what I'm doing, square root of 3 can't reduce, but square root of 4 can. It's going to give us 2. So I'm going to write this as the square root of 3 over 2. And then lastly, this is equal. And bring my equal sign down. Last, we're going to add 2 to both sides. So we're going to have z equals, this will be 2 plus or minus square root of 3 divided by 2. And you won't be able to simplify it any further than that. So you can, of course, you can do this with quadratic, but I wanted to just do it a little bit different and just show completeness squared again. 2 plus or minus square root 3 divided by, nope, I want it like that. Let's do a division sign first. And then square root of 3 over 2.